Welcome, everybody, to another Playful Humans podcast. I'm your host, Mike Montague, and my guest this week is Greg Kettner. He's a speaker, trainer, happiness coach, and host of the Work Happy podcast. So since you are listening to a podcast right now, go check that one out as well. And he used to be in professional sports marketing. We'll talk about that and all kinds of ways to rediscover the power of play, find your happiness and more fun, flow, and fulfillment in your life. If that sounds good to you, you can check out Playful Humans at playfulhumans.com or subscribe to this podcast right now, wherever you are listening. Do it. Quit messing around. You can find Greg Kettner at gregkettner.com. Here we go. All right, Greg, welcome to the podcast. We like to start with the joke of the week. The joke of the week is brought to you by mathematics. Math, grow up and solve your own problems. Tired of doing it for you. Mathematics. All right, here's the joke of the week. I like this one, Greg. How do you follow Will Smith in the snow?
Not sure. One step at a time?
You follow the Fresh Prince.
Wow.
Fresh Prince in the all right, there you go.
That was so good. I almost
you have a joke for us?
Where did the horse go when he got sick?
I don't know.
The hospital. Oh, I'm kidding. They took him to the glue factory.
The double punchline. I like it. There's a delayed fuse on that one.
And no horses were hurt in the making of that joke or telling.
I'm assuming they still don't do that, but did they ever?
I don't know if they ever did.
I don't know if that's
it's probably one of those internet schemes.
I think so. We'll have to Snopes that one later. Yeah. All right. So tell us a little bit about your career and how you got here. I always like to kind of start at the beginning. Did you ever have a real job and serious, and did you lose your happiness and that's why it became important to you? Or have you just always been a fun, playful human?
Well, it started way back in the day when my mom asked my dad for a back rub. No,
you can speed up a little bit. Yeah, let's
a little quicker, Greg. We only got a half hour. No, I've always had a happy disposition. I think part of it was DNA, but I think it was also my environment. I grew up in a funny household. My brother and I wore out Bill Cosby's record, Fat Albert. We had it memorized back in the day. And then I got into sports. I was a huge sports fan since I was a kid. Wayne Gretzky had just been traded to the Oilers from the Indianapolis Racers back in '79. My brother cheered for the Vancouver Canucks. So I couldn't cheer for the same team as my older brother. So I went with the Oilers, got lucky, and just kind of worked my way up. I went to college, and out of college, I got a job. I helped open up the Nike Town in Seattle.
Cool.
I did that, but kind of, I don't know, just it was the child labor and everything just wasn't my thing. So I jumped ship, went to a junior hockey team, the Seattle Thunderbirds. Absolutely loved it. Loving hockey. Every day I got to talk hockey. I'm like, this is really cool. And just worked my way up to the Vancouver Canucks, which are part of the NHL, the National Hockey League. Worked also for the Vancouver Whitecaps. In the MLS. And then after that, I kind of did everything I could versus management. I tried managing people. I'm not a big fan of babysitting adults. And so I was working at a software company, and we were at our annual sales kickoff. There's 4,000 people in Vegas. And the MC, 7 minutes into a 3-hour program, said something so horrible that he got canned. Like they cut the microphone.
Really?
Yeah. The room.
Oh my gosh.
And so 5 minutes later over the PA system, they said, you know what, we're so sorry for what just happened. But give us 15 minutes. We're going to restart the program from the beginning. And they also tagged onto it. They said, if anyone knows where Greg Kettner is, we need to talk to him.
That's awesome.
When I tightened up like a snare drum.
And you got into public speaking, huh?
And that's when that was because I'd been doing fart and poop
funny.
jokes at like open mic nights for about 6 months.
Yeah.
So somebody from the company had heard me at one of these things, like, oh, Greg can get up in front of 4,000 people. But my immediate thought was, who was I hanging out with the night before, and how much had I been drinking? Like, I thought I was getting sent home early for some reason.
Yeah.
But I went backstage, and they said, you saw what happened? I'm like, oh, I'd hate to follow that guy. They go, that's what we need. We need 15 minutes.
You know, I was going to interrupt you there too, and I know you made light of the poop jokes. I mean, they're not the best, but they are a solid number 2. If you
fair enough.
If you got to
very
rely
solid,
on some material. Yeah,
very solid number 2, especially now in 49. So they wanted me to go up, and I thought, why not? Because if I don't go and perform in Vegas to 4,000 people, sold out show at the Bellagio, I'm not going to have this story to tell on the Playful Humans podcast. Yeah. So I was thinking about you 10 years ago. So I went up, I did my 15 minutes, and at the end, I had a captive audience. I had them laughing. And that year, if you hit a certain sales target, President's Club was a $10,000 cruise through Turkey, Italy, and Greece. And I was nowhere near the boat. So I just admitted it in front of everybody, said, hey, I'm sorry I didn't hit my number, but I'm kind of helping out the company tonight. Is there a way I can get on the boat? And this guy stood up in the front row, walked up to the stage. He goes, kid, you're on the boat. I said, awesome. I made the boat. Standing ovation. People are going nuts. And I leaned back down, like, who are you? He goes, oh, I'm the president of the company. I'm like, perfect.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. So that's how I got started. And then I started doing stand-up full time. I had the privilege to work with guys like Gilbert Gottfried, Norm Macdonald, Robin Williams. And then I ran into a former friend from high school, Becky. We started dating. I got married. And when you're wanting to have a good relationship, you can't be on the road 300 nights a year. And so when we got married, I was here in Walla Walla working as the director for membership for our local chamber. And then COVID hit, and my boss told me I was not essential. I strongly disagreed with him. Membership brought in 90% of the revenue, but he thought he could handle it. And so I was out of a job, and I thought, you know what? Why don't
Yeah, nobody quits things like networking events during a pandemic, right? So yeah, I'm sure they retained all their members.
Yeah, well, it's funny because all the things that I had schemed up about, having, instead of a business hours, we could do it virtually, right? I could link up a guy on Zoom, and he could take me around his shop, and he could talk to everybody, and we could do virtual meetups and everything. And he's like, no, those would never work. And now that's what they're doing. So but I was pretty beat up over it. And then my wife, and wives are great at that, but she's like, well, you've always kind of wanted to help people. You're a funny guy. Why don't you combine your sales and your humor and start a business? And that's what I do now. I work with professional sports organizations, how to work happy, right? Because what you do, Mike, in Playful Humans, when we are playful, when we are happy, we're more productive, we're more creative. There's better mental health, better physical health, all these things. And so now that's what I do. I speak, I train, I coach how to work happy, because life's a lot better when you're happy.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I totally agree, and that's what a lot about what this show is about. But I'm wondering, for you, what do you think the keys are? For me, I think it makes perfect sense that if you're happy and you're playful, you have more energy and you have more creativity, and you connect better with other people. You're just more open to new ideas and more flexible. But that's easier said than done when people are burnt out and they're checking email from the time they wake up to the time they go to bed, and there's no mental bandwidth or time bandwidth left to do anything fun. So where do you start with people, or where do you recommend they start?
Well, it just depends. One-on-one is a lot easier than trying to talk to an organization and saying, hey, have you ever thought about putting people before profits?
Right. And they're like, nope,
I
haven't.
talking to you. But just like what you said, right? Where people are getting up in the morning, it's email. When you wake up, it's the first thing you do. Or if you're up at 3 o'clock in the morning because you have to take a solid number two, people are on their phone, and that alone, social media and screen time is just, it's compounded in life. I mean, rates and suicides for kids have increased steadily ever since about 2010 when the smartphone came out. But we're not human enough. And now that we're in the pandemic, this is how you and I met, through a screen, right?
Yeah.
Which is great because it helps to get the message out. But it'd be so much fun if we were in a studio together doing this. And we're humans and we need that connection. And if we can get off our smartphones, take time to play, be mindful, take time to laugh. I encourage people to put in your calendar, take 5 minutes every morning before you start your day, pull up a funny video, whether it's babies laughing or dump trucks running into bridges, or one of your favorite comedians, but just laughing, because when we laugh, it releases those endorphins and we burn calories. And I didn't know that. Like if you laugh for 15 minutes, you burn 40 calories.
Yeah.
If you get to have sex for a half hour, it burns 100 calories. And if you combine the two, it's like 500 or 600 calories because you're running.
Because you have to run after that. Yeah, I like that. Well, yeah, I mean, that's at least a Snickers bar or two,
Right?
just for laughing and having sex. That's not a bad deal, right? So yeah, you can add those back in, break even, and you're good to go. You can.
Yeah.
It's amazing how productive you would be after those hours, right? So I think it's all brilliant, and to me, I think a little bit obvious, even though it is counterintuitive a little bit. I think there are some weird, an author called it a backwards law, right? It's an ironic process of life that you actually become more productive the more playful you become and the happier you are. And that by like stressing yourself out and working long hours and stuff, you become less productive, and you produce less. So you might as well just enjoy the ride and have fun with it. But I think people mistake that for frivolousness, and they think they're going to end up in a van down by the river alone if they, follow their passion or dreams. Can you talk a little bit about that? And maybe have you ever seen any downsides, or like, I feel like people that go overboard with it were not professional in the first place. You're gonna end up in a van down by the river anyway if you're a drug addict or pursuing something that's that frivolous, right?
Yeah, no, and there is that line, but I mean, even if we look back, to when we were kids, kids laugh up to 300 times every day, and adults 17. So do we have so much stress we don't laugh, or we don't laugh because we have too much, like the chicken or the egg, right? And it is kind of counterintuitive to the way we think about work. But there's countries now over in Europe that are doing a 4-hour or a 4-day work week. And people are being more productive because our brains only have so much bandwidth during the day. And other studies show that if you take, a 5 or 10 minute break every hour, you're that much more productive. Because even, right now we're on Zoom staring at the screen and we don't realize it, but the screen is flashing so fast that we don't even see it. But that stresses our minds. And so I encourage people, keep your Zooms to a half hour. And once people realize that, taking time out, I mean, you can't take an 8 hours off and assume to get your work done. But I know for me, I'm up at 5, I meditate, I exercise, and I read for the first hour before I look at my phone, right? Before I get into the workday. And it really helps me focus. And I don't know about you, but I'm a morning guy, and about 1 o'clock, I start to fade. And so I'll either go take a nap or do something else, read a book for an hour or two, and by 2:30, I'm ready to go again. But we
go for a walk, change the pace, something to change the energy that you can't just sit there for. I love the miracle mornings. That's a great way to start the day and figure out what's important to you and get it in. I know, I think we're similar ages, but if you you get to a point where if you don't exercise your mind, get your body flexible and do some sort of conditioning every day, you're not going to be happier tomorrow as it goes on. You're going to be in more pain and more stiff and feeling more old. So it's important to get up and do something to move your body and exercise. I think that's great.
And the other thing
I also wanted to shout out there that give you a plug here, that you have the podcast, the Work Happy podcast, which comes out on Thursdays and weekly show as well. But you do a Friday funny. So tell me about that. Just a way to like kind of remind people to laugh and have fun, right?
Yeah, no, I started that when I was doing my sales. Now, I don't know, just growing my email list, and people are now like, thank you so much. I really needed that. It helped me get to the weekend kind of thing. But I started it years ago when I was in sales, because in sales, you're always sending emails or phone calls. Hey, you want to buy tickets? Hey, you want to buy tickets? Hey, you want to buy tickets? And I found that when we laugh, we really connect with people, right? I mean, you and I shared jokes before we got on. We shared a joke on the podcast, but it bonds us as humans. And so I just started sending out every Friday, and typically it's a Far Side cartoon, especially in 2021. You have to be very PG. You have to make sure no animals were hurt in the drawing of the cartoon. But I send that out and say, hey, have a great Friday. I thought this might make you laugh, with zero ask. And I've gotten so much business and built so many great relationships, because every Friday a person gets this funny in their email box, which they can share with their colleagues, their friends, or they just laugh and they feel that much better. So it's again, when we laugh, we connect with people, and it's memorable.
Yeah, I mean, Steve Martin is one of my favorites. We wore out my mom had a Steve Martin record that we wore out as kids, my brother and I, and memorized all of his bits. And my grandma introduced me to the Far Side and like Monty Python and a bunch of silliness, which I really value today. I think them instilling a sense of playfulness and silliness and happiness in our family was really important, even if we watched Benny Hill a little bit too young, or
right,
found some inappropriate jokes in Dave Barry comedy or something. That's still totally worth it because of all the pleasure and happiness it's brought us.
Yeah, and you probably found that too, right? I mean, with Playful Humans, but I also know that you do sales training. But it connects us, and I really realized that the connection. Quick story: I was doing a 5-minute set in a pub in Vancouver. Halfway through my set, Robin Williams walked in, and in my head, I'm like, "Oh my God, that's my hero." He got a beer, he sat down, he started laughing at my stupid jokes, and so as I walked off the stage, I thought, "How am I going to make this memorable and connect with this guy?" And so I pretended that I had no idea who he was.
How long did you keep that up?
About 5 minutes, and he was very confused. He was like, "Why does this skinny John Goodman have no idea who I am?" But I asked him what he was doing. He's like, "Oh, we're filming Night at the Museum. It's a movie that we're working on." I'm like, "Oh, that's cool.
Wow.
Like, are you the camera guy or catering? Do you hold the microphone?" And so I finally, I said, "You know what? I'm just kidding. I know who you are. You're the reason why I got into stand-up comedy." And he said to me, "You know what, Greg, you'll keep doing what you're doing because you're funny," which gave me a huge confidence boost, right? If Robin, even if he was lying, right? Having that in my head really helped. But he said, "Keep doing what you're doing because you'll never know the difference. Making someone else laugh will make a difference in their life." And that stuck with me. And I used to want to get laughs, and now I give laughs. And it's so much better.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think it's so cool. And people like that, I know he had a tragic ending and a lot of other things going on there, but people who do it and make it, I think they don't, and especially in comedy, they seem to not forget why they were there. Some of the other people that were doing things to be famous or reality shows or something like that, sometimes they forget that the point is the audience. But I've found that comedians have a better sense of that they know that they were given a gift and that they had to struggle a long time to make it and to keep that audience first is an important lesson for sure. I think in life, and like you said, in sales and everything else, in marriage, you keep that other person laughing, keep them engaged.
Just got
and
married.
happy.
It was
Important.
my sense of humor.
Well, we did mention before the podcast, you were in sports and comedy when you met your wife, right? And I was a DJ and entertainer at the front of the room, and I met her in a bar too. But that quickly became something that we needed to retire. Right.
You had better things to do.
I think well, for sure, and you value better work hours. I think for sure when you have a family.
Exactly. And even when it comes to marriage, there's times when just because I help other people be happy doesn't mean that I don't have stresses or life gets overwhelming, or same with my wife. But there's nights when we get into bed, we'll pull up our a favorite comedian and watch 15-20 minutes before we go to sleep, and we're laughing. And I've not done the research, but I sleep a lot better when I laugh before I go to bed.
Oh, that's interesting, because I would think I mean, I do that too. I like to reset and make sure that I'm not stressing about work or something before I'm trying to relax. That doesn't help, but it gives me so much energy. I like to do that first thing in the morning and get myself, laughing and in the right mindset and prepared. And so that's really interesting. I have 2 quick questions for you, and then I want to play a game. Sure. First one is, along these lines, I've kind of found that it's interesting for me that I didn't like radio. I didn't like working in radio, or those hours and that pay didn't work for the lifestyle that I wanted. But now I have a couple of podcasts and I do public speaking, and I'm still behind a microphone doing a show, but it's completely different. And I found your career path to be kind of the same way, that you're still doing comedy. You're still living the dream and your passion and what turns you on, but it's not maybe in the form that your 12-year-old self would think. Do you have any advice for somebody else that's struggling with that, or they feel like they don't know where their career path is going, or something?
Yeah, the people that I talk with, and it took me, I mean, I think, as humans, we wish we would have figured this out when we were 20 or 30. But I they say, do what you love and the money will follow. It is true, but if I would give any advice to people out there that are thinking, you know what, I have this job, I'm not really happy, this is what I'd like to do. Maybe they're an artist or a musician or a speaker or whatever it is, but start out as a side job, because I didn't have that luxury. I went from, making my 65,000 a year to nothing. And so I had to start out, but explore different things. And it's a lot of work. It's a grind, but it's my grind. I'm not relying on someone else if I'm going to get that phone call and saying you're not essential. I get to do what I get to do. And, one of the coolest things during this pandemic, Mike, I started a group on humor on Facebook called the Humor Lab. And there may or may not have been a bottle or 2 of wine involved. But I was like, okay, well, we're going to be locked up for a month, I thought. And so I started this small group, PG-13, no politics. But I wanted everybody to share what made them laugh, whether it's a dad joke or a meme or whatnot. And I just got a note from a gal yesterday thanking me so much for this group. She's in the healthcare, she's on the front lines, and she says, a lot of times it's the group that got me through really tough days. And we're over 22,000 people now. And it's
wow, that's so awesome.
So it's the playful, it's the happiness, it's the laughter, but follow your passion, figure out what your why is, what Simon Sinek talks about, and go from there and give it your all. And it's, you and I are very similar, right? We set our own schedule. After this, I'm going to drop my wife off at work and go for a run. And I couldn't do that with a regular job.
Yeah, I think it's that's all great advice. The other thing I would add is that don't be afraid to change that picture. So keep the why and keep that purpose in it, but don't be afraid to try other things, because when I was 12, podcasting wasn't an option. So I didn't want to be but as you grow up, other options become available to you. And so as long as you keep that drive and the essence of what makes you happy, makes you playful, and makes you feel fulfilled, then I think that's where the magic is. That the how and the what can change a lot as you grow and evolve.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Last question for you. What is on your fun bucket list? Is there any other like dream job, dream gig, like thing that you want to accomplish in your career?
No, I don't. I think I found it. I love what motivates me is making other people happy. But on my bucket list and where I want to take this is to where I can pick up Becky and I can go work from Mexico for 2 months and do traveling, right? So if I can travel and golf whenever I want to, that's on my bucket list.
I love it. Golf is a good one for sure. Now, do you want to play a game?
Absolutely.
I haven't had anybody say no yet, but we're going to spin our wheel of games and see which one it lands on. And you got the Whisper Challenge. The Whisper Challenge is one of my favorites for a podcast. It works a lot better if you watch the YouTube video right now. So, fair warning, if you want to actually play along, pause and jump to the YouTube if you're not watching already. But how this works is we put ourselves on mute. We say a sentence, and the other person tries to guess what we said. The person who gets the most amount of words right wins. All right. So I'll go first, put myself on mute here.
One more time.
It's one of my dad's favorite sayings.
Greg Kettner is the best human being I've ever met.
Oh, there you go. Good guess, but I would think that would be maybe one word, right?
I think I saw funny and playful, but I'm not sure.
No, close though, because there was friend. So it was my dad's favorite line is you can pick your friends and you can pick your nose, but you can't pick your friend's nose.
Fair enough. I've heard that before. I just didn't.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Your turn.
0 for Greg. Where's my mute button? There we are.
Ooh, I think I got that one. Was it go listen to the Playful Humans podcast? There you go.
Bingo.
Nailed it. All right. Well, I win, but I'll give you a free 30-second commercial, whatever you want to promote, asks or gives for the audience. How can we help you or you help us?
Perfect. Well, number one, thanks again, Mike, for having me on. I would say to the audience, go listen to the Playful Humans podcast. Check out the Work Happy podcast. Mike and I are kind of doing the same thing from different angles. And you can reach me on LinkedIn is probably the easiest, or gregkettner.com. But if you are struggling to find happiness, to find joy in your life, and you want to talk to someone about that, maybe change a career, or your organization is looking to put people first before profits so that there's more revenue, better mental health, and less turnover, let's have a conversation.
I love it. Again, check it out, gregkettner.com. That's 2 T's in that. If you put the /podcast on there, take you right to the Work Happy podcast, or you can search whatever platform you're listening to this on right now and hit subscribe to both of those. For the Playful Humans, go to playfulhumans.com. We're also having some fun on Instagram there and LinkedIn. You can always add either one of us there and connect. Good stuff, but do it. Go play. Go find your passion. Figure out how to play for a living and enjoy your life. It's too short, right? Good luck, everybody.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.
Keep on chasing the sunshine and go out and play.
Go play, everybody.